Alright, the first thing to say here is that Hans has had a haircut. So this is him now. This is him way back when he played Magnus in the Sinkfield Cup last year. If you contrast that with Magnus, this was him at the Sinkfield Cup. This is Magnus now. It's like they've flipped, right? There's some weird stuff going on between Hans and Magnus. Lawsuit still rumbling on. If I get any updates, I'll bring you a video. Now onto this game. Hans Niemann has just trounced a Grandmaster in 25 moves. He was playing against Nikita Petrov in the Baku Open, another open tournament, strong players. Hans with white here, and he destroys him in a disgusting 98.6% accuracy chess. That is high quality chess, and there's so much we can learn from this game. By the way, shout out to Motody as well for drawing my attention to it, so thanks for that one. So Ruy Lopez to start with, Hans with white. We see a6, the bishop drops back, knight f6, castles, bishop e7, and now rook e1 defends this pawn, and so now black has to break this pin, do something about the pressure here. So bishop b3, we see castles, and this is the starting position of the Marshall Gambit. So if white goes c3, the old main move, black can do this. This is how the line goes, and the gambit is the giving of this e5 pawn, and then c6 is the main move. Magnus has been dabbling recently with bishop b7. There's tons of theory there, but black just seems to be equalizing everywhere. So players are now steering away from that with moves like a4 or h3. This one's become really common, and now we see bishop b7 played. You can also go b4. By the way, don't go rook b8. I did this myself in a game, and it's just bad because white can open the a file, and then after this standard couple of moves, the problem is d4. d5 is now coming, and where is this knight going? It's got nowhere to hop to. All the squares are taken, and so if you capture here, you're now giving white the center, and it's just uncomfortable. Advantage to white. So I wouldn't recommend rook b8. In this game, bishop b7 played, and now we see d3, d6 now protects this e5 pawn, and therefore frees up the knight to hop to a5 and pressure this bishop. And there's lots of different ways for white to meet this. You know, knight c3, pawn c3, knight bd2, three very common moves. But in this game, we see bishop d2. So it's fighting against this knight to a5 move, as we can see there, and that's why black now plays knight back to b8. So remaneuvering the knight like this, you know, themes of the Breyer variation, and it frees the c pawn to now release itself and play in the game. So knight a3 from Hans, good move, pressuring this pawn here, and there's no b4, the bishop covers that square of course, so we see c6 played, and now c4 is an excellent positional move. Again, you're just pressuring this b5 pawn, it's uncomfortable, you can't go b4, and if you go queen d7 just to kind of hold and maintain the tension, well the problem is white's not forced to release it. You know, you can play slowly now with pawn h3, start playing in the center. The problem for black is what kind of good improving moves do they have? You know, the queen now stands in the way of the knight. If you ever drop it back, well the rooks aren't connected anymore. It's just not very harmonious. And I have to say, I think black gets the opening just wrong here, right? And it speaks now to what I've been using every day to improve my own chess, which is Aimchess. So do definitely check it out if you get a moment. It's free to sign up. Link down below. But what's so good about it is they pull in your game data from Lead Chess, chess.com, and then they show you a dashboard of where you need to improve. So if openings is a weakness of yours, or end games, middle games, tactics, whatever, you can see that quite quickly, and then it gives you all these drills and training exercise to improve. Plus, if you do then want to sign up for all the bells and whistles, you get a lot with the free stuff anyway, but then if you sign up for more, you can use the code EPIC at checkout. Again, follow the link down below, and the first 50 people to sign up using that EPIC code checkout, EPIC code at checkout, will get a great discount in that first month. So check it out, nothing to lose. How many times did I just say checkout? Anyway, back to this game. So the pressure's on the pawn. We don't see queen d7, we see takes on a4. Bishop recaptures, knight bd7, potentially hitting c5, and so b4 shuts that plan down. c5 tries to get new control over that square. Now if you capture, not good because you bring the knight into the game, right? So what does Hans do? Well, he plays knight c2. excellent move, not only looking at this square, but also this one, starting a new knight journey. So we see takes on b4 played, and now you can capture with the knight, you know, this is still a great journey to go on, but Hans goes with the bishop, freeing his knight to come to this square instead. We see queen c7, knight e3, knight c5, and now the knight comes to f5 instead of d5. d5 also playable, but it allows black to exchange a piece. I mean, you then get more control over c6 after pawn recaptures, but this one here seems to be way the better practical move because it instantly forces a blunder from black. Now, it's not obvious here why this move's so bad, but basically you cannot let white take this bishop. You had to go bishop d8, that was the top move, but it's a very ugly move to make. What we see in the game is bishop c8, but now Hans can take this one with check, the queen recaptures, and pawn d4 comes. And there are big problems now, all connected with this diagonal and threats of e5. So the knight is attacked, right? Well, what happens if you simply take that pawn? Well, e5 is the big problem, and we now see the issue with having the queen on e7 instead of c7, because if you capture that pawn, the rook can recapture and you're double attacking here. If you imagine that the queen was on c7, this whole line's impossible, because now the bishop would also be on b7. You wouldn't be getting double attacked, you know, like this with the rook, and with the bishop on b7 you could chop the knight here and then the rook's loose. Okay, so queen on e7 though, issue, because now when it has to move away, okay, you win a piece, take it how you will, it's all better for white. So taking no good, you run into e5. What if the knight takes this pawn? Again, no good, because we capture on e5. You can't recapture here, you lose your queen. You can't take with the queen, you lose your queen. And if you now move this knight, which is forced, right, you know it's attacked, well then you lose your knight here. So none of those points are working. That's why we see takes on a4. The queen recaptures, and now black's just in a desperate state here. Still, this is no good. You're running into e5. Huge problems down this diagonal. So what we see in the game is knight h5. I mean, the computer says the best was a5, but still a lot better for white. Let me go back to the moves. So knight h5 was played instead. Ideas of knight f4, you know, queen g5 after you maybe eliminate this one. Try and drum up an attack, but Hans is clinical. Queen c6 hits the undefended rook ever since that bishop underdeveloped, and also threatens to take here and skewer these. So you can't play this natural move, or you run into this. The whole thing's horrendous, of course. So we see rook d8 covering this pawn, and now the queen takes on a8. Well, why isn't black just literally resigning here? A rook down. Well, here's the final trick. Bishop g4, uncovering this attack, and threatening to take here, shatter the pawns, bring the knight and the queen, that kind of thing. You know, if Hans took here, then you get something like this. But even this is futile. It still gives +3 for white. This should never be working. King h1, best move to start the defense. But what Hans does, nice finish here, is bishop takes on d6, giving back material. Now if you capture the queen, well, we take here. White's doing fine. You can't capture the bishop with the rook. It's literally pinned to the king. So we see queen takes in the game, but now Hans, he takes on a6. Now he could have taken on a6 without giving up the bishop. You know, what was the point of all that? Well, it prevents black from immediately taking the knight, drumming up all of that play. You have to do something about this. Well, okay, you can take here, but then we're going to just chop these queens off, something like this. Actually, no, now you're getting mated. You can't do this, sorry. So if you can't take on g4, what are you doing? Well, if you take here, this is clearly better for white. You're an exchange up, plus you've also got your own running past pawn. And if instead of taking the queens off, you try and keep them on the board with queen e7, well, still this is much better for white. You can chop here on e5, hit the bishop, and okay, everything's just falling apart now. Yeah, you can retreat to c8, hit the queen, but then the queen can still retreat, and you're hugely in the driving seat. You can't even take here, or you're running into a fork. You're just a rook upright. So Niemann killing it in the Baku Open. If you want to see another exceptional game, then check out the video on screen. Do hit that like button if you enjoyed, and consider subscribing to never miss a future video. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.